friggin' ads, man. This is like, look at this. This is insanity.
They'd be blocked if you're on Brave browser. I say this every single time. It keeps being true. It never changes, but you know what else never changes? The browser you use.
Hey, you're right. This is amazing.
Okay, since
all right. Why haven't you told me to use Brave before? This is incredible. There's no ads. You're hanging me out to dry.
To be fair to you, I have only been telling you to do this for the past since I've known you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like 5 years at this point.
But why didn't you say it more, Oz?
Because here's the thing that I noticed. If I say anything with too much certainty in your presence, you immediately do the exact opposite of what I've said.
Yes, that is true. Because
which is funny, because I do the same thing.
Why is that the case?
Because we're the same retard with different hemispheres.
But also, whenever you say something with more forcefulness, you sound like more of a crazy person. That's not fair!
I'm not crazy. Maybe I am.
You are a bit, but it is not fair. Like, you think if someone's really sure, it's like, seriously, don't get the jab, it'll kill you. Why am I sounding crazy when it's very sane and reasonable?
Now, I told you that would happen, but you're still here, so.
That is an odd intro to this video.
Welcome back to Schizophrenia. Today, I'm the more reasonable one.
You are. We are reacting. Welcome back to the watch. We're reacting to Matt Walsh. He has said Australia is the weakest, wokest, lamest country on earth, and I kind of get where he's coming from as an Australian.
However, he's forgetting one very important thing.
What, Oz?
Europe exists.
Yes, and also, have you seen Canada? Come on! Are you really being fair, Matt?
Oh, man.
I know we're bad. Have you seen your president?
No.
Okay? Yeah, I know our Prime Minister is a friggin' disgrace and an embarrassment, but at least he can remember what he had for breakfast in the morning.
Yep, Vegemite on toast.
Always.
It's not hard.
I mean, because this came up on FNT, Friday Night Tights, where our stupid Prime Minister is trying to ban memes of him. So bad, right? And yeah, embarrassing to the extreme. So disconnected from reality, this guy, and wants just authoritarian control to silence people. Messages he disagrees with. It's because he wants to instill the Ministry of Truth. Misinformation is a problem, according to him, even though all the misinformation they spread during the lockdowns.
Yep.
Can't stand the guy, right? Yet, when I was like, all right, okay, do you guys have any ground to criticize our leader when yours is Joe Biden? And they all had to be like, oh, yeah. They even put a poll in the chat. Thousands of people. And, yeah, the most embarrassing leader. Like, even between, like, our Prime Minister, Trudeau, Biden, he takes the cake.
At least ours is sentient.
Yes.
At least ours still has a pulse.
Exactly. We can be pretty confident ours is still alive.
Yeah, we know that ours isn't a lich.
Whenever I see Biden, I'm looking for the strings or the pole up his ass that's animating him.
Come on, Shad. He's animatronic. He's a Boston Dynamics creation.
Oh, my gosh. So is that really fair, even though he might have a point?
He certainly has a point.
He certainly has a point.
But also, he's in a glass house.
Exactly. We could throw stones back at you, Matt. But look, I mean, Australia, it is pretty sad our, global reputation has fallen so far.
Yeah.
Like, because, Matt, he says, like, once upon a time, let's see if I can, if this thing says it. Australians used to be considered tough, especially, before COVID, I thought that Australia was, first of all, an absolute hellscape where poisonous spiders rain from the sky. That part is, yes, that is true.
That is true.
But then I further thought that because of that, anyone who lives there would have to be the toughest sons of on the planet. I thought it was a whole country of Steve Irwins. And look, I've had to wrestle a couple of crocodiles going to school, and so that was the case. But then he's seen, from COVID and now ending with it was the TV show Alone, but it was the Australian-based one. I actually really like Alone. We'll talk more about that later. He watched that, and there were some Aussies in it, and some Aussies. Shameful performances.
Did they have their didgeridoos and their
No.
rings?
But he says, I thought how Australia is the weakest, wokest, lamest country on earth. Look, they cherry pick the contestants, okay? This is made by a History Channel, right? Yeah. Okay? Like all these friggin' reality shows, their purpose is to misrepresent society because they want to get the most diverse, wokest people. Like, there's a show that might actually be interesting to watch, but I can't stand it because all the contestants seem to be the most progressive people under the sun. It's called Is It Cake? It's like where they make cake and they have to see if it's a real cake or not because it looks so realistic, right?
Huh.
But just not only that, so many like talk shows and everything like that, they are only interested in the most progressive representations ever. So much so they're overrepresenting it. This is not a real reflection of society. People are usually considered minorities because there's not a lot of these people in these groups. But then that's all we see in the talk show. So he's complaining about one guy who was really soft, and he was an Aussie, right? And he gets COVID, and he freaks out about it, and he got it was a positive test, right? But someone his age, most people don't react negative. He could have just brushed it off, right? It's also called alone. You're not going to infect anyone else.
Depends though. Was his immune system destroyed by?
I don't know.
Anything?
But as soon as he took the test, it seemed like he was playing into it and was like shiver, like and stuff like that. And Matt reacts very negatively that that was a very weak display. And look, Matt, you don't live in Australia, okay? I've grown up here, which kind of makes sense because I am Australian, right? I have met some hard Aussies, man.
Yeah, and if it lasts more than 4 hours, call a doctor.
Shut up. No, hardcore, you...
Oh, my bad.
Bastard. But seriously, come on. You've known some hardcore Aussies. I like
Every single day I meet one. I look them right in the mirror.
No,
I say, "How you going, handsome?"
but like guys that live in the bush and just give them a knife and they'll just make
Skin a wallaby.
exactly right. And also my dad. I love my dad, but he was one of them. All right.
He's a tough man.
All right. To give you an example of how hardcore my dad was, right? He grew up hillbilly. He was a hillbilly growing up, okay? And Matt was saying, Australia, hellscape, all these poisonous serpents, you have to be like a full-on, nutcase Chad to be able to handle them. This is what my dad did. Him and his mates, for fun, would go into the bush, hunt for snakes, okay? Australian snakes. He grew up in this back, woods kind of like off in the boonies community called Taggity.
Taggity.
How hillbilly is that name?
I'm up in Taggity.
Taggity, man, right?
Yeah.
So him and his mates, they'll go hunt snakes, not to kill. Well, we'll get there.
They would die in the process of whatever fun they were having.
Yeah, but first it was to capture them.
Yeah.
And so they'd get them, chuck them in a sack. Okay, and for all these animal lovers, like, oh, snakes are endangered species. Not on a friggin' farm. If you're on a farm, snakes are a friggin' danger.
Yeah.
Okay, they're Australian snakes. Yeah,
These things want your blood.
they want to kill you. I know them. We're afraid of them.
No, they do want. They're not afraid of us at all. They probably went to your father to be a part of this fun game you were playing.
All right. So capture snakes in a like Hessian bag, right? Then they'd take it to the dam and they'd throw it in the dam, and the snake would go underwater. And so then my dad and his mates would go, stand along the dam, get out their shotguns, and wait for the snake, because it would be holding his breath and need to come up for air. When its air would jump. And when it jumped out of the water...
If it's good enough for a deer.
So damn hillbilly, man. Aussies. There are still hardcore Aussies. You just need to know where to look. By the way, I've also had to kill a snake growing up. When I was, I think I was 16. My parents were away. And again, we were growing up on a farm. Snakes are friggin' dangerous, especially with young kids on a farm, all right? And so the standard, this is like, we lived up in the boonies. We don't have pest control, animal control. No, relocate it, right? So we were living on a hobby farm, 20 acres, everything, and my parents were away. In fact, I was the oldest male home at the time. I have an older brother, but he was away, and so the only people home was my sister, who's only a year older than me, and then my two younger brothers. And I was sitting reading a book, and a friggin' tiger snake stood living right past the window, and I was like, holy crap. And the danger is, we have like bushes all around our house, and if it gets in the bushes, it's lost and can come out anytime. And you can just be walking by, you don't mean to scare it, you spook it, and it's a friggin' tiger snake. And we're too far away to get that treated, right? So the just standard procedure growing up is your snakes, they need to be taken care of. My dad would usually take care of, man, he was a friggin' boss. Like, see a snake, family inside, and he'd be outside hunting, right? He leveled up his game when he started to use the shotgun. Much easier to take him out with shotguns.
Nice.
But this snake needed to be taken care of, and if it hidden, and it was my responsibility.
And you killed it.
You know how I killed it, Oz?
With a sword.
With a sword.
That's the day it began.
That's the day. Oh, I already had swords, so
Yeah.
I was already. I grabbed a sword, went outside, grabbed a shovel, pin shovel, head off with a sword. I packed my friggin' dax, man. I was 16 years old, but needed to. I had to act. That was the duty and responsibility I, as the oldest male at home, had.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, I mean, I was more of a city kid growing up, so I never. But the times I did go to the bush, I saw some things that make you think, "Oh my goodness, that's hardcore." Like for example, when I was on holiday in Dongra, like a local beach town out in the middle of nowhere, we found the head of a hammerhead shark on the beach. What the hell ate the rest of it? We don't know. But yeah, growing up in the city, all I had to deal with, beating up grown-ass men. But other than that, fine. Like I actually fought a grown-ass man one time. I took him down.
Yeah.
How old was I? 22 at the time. He was like 35 and a head taller than me. I'd never felt more powerful in my life, man. Anyway, Australia.
So, this is the thing. Australians, we've had that reputation in the past, and that and in the right places, it is still very well deserved. The outback is still the outback, and you have to be hardcore to survive in this country. Okay, and I grew up in the outback. All right, not in the huge, like there are stages of outback. Okay, the Victorian outback is different to like the
Yeah, it's like wet out there.
yeah.
Whereas WA,
Western Australia, Northern Territory,
Yeah.
that outback is.
I did survival camp up in the not Northern Territory. Sorry, not still. Well, I was in what do you call it, Port Hedland. It's nowhere near the Northern Territory, but it's up high in West
Up higher,
Australia. Yeah.
yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's like because Victoria is very temperate. So it's, in terms of the landscape, nicest place in Australia.
You guys have it easy.
We do. Like Victoria is very different to the apocalypse that is most of the rest of Australia.
You know, Mad Max is actually
A documentary.
yes, of West Australia.
Yeah.
But just like we have all the worthwhile people there, we have all the worthwhile resources and everything. You guys live off of us.
Is that why Victoria is so bad politically? Because it's so soft. It
Yes.
attracts all the soft
Yes,
people.
you need a great war to bring strength out. This is why we need another world war.
Because even though we have the places where Australia is hardcore, the cities, the luxuries, and how soft it's become,
Yep.
it's insanely woke,
Yep.
depressingly woke. And Victoria is like the West. This is why even us as Aussies say, look, it's got a point.
Yes.
Like certain parts of Australia has become friggin' embarrassing.
However, in the majority of America, if you go and say a particular word they don't like, they'll all freak out and start crying. Whereas Australia, we love to banter. We have the bants. Americans can't bants.
It's interesting about that because how Australians treat racism is very different to America. All right, we have a different history for one as well. And like, there's been multiple Americans who have commented when they've come over here who said Australia's really racist. Not because we treat people with different coloured skin any differently. Aussies are more willing to joke about race than Americans are, seemingly. Unless you're an actual comedian in America and then they go to town. But Aussies,
I was reading a Facebook thing where this person was like, I'm Black American coming to Australia. I've heard Australia's racist. Do I have to deal with that? And I thought the first thing that I thought was the same thing that everyone else commented. You'll have to deal with people making fun of you for being American rather than black.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth.
Because a lot of that type of humor actually is more about culture than race.
Exactly. We generally, since we're so diverse, we tend to not care about that. So little that we make fun of it.
One of my best friends growing up in primary school was a Filipino lad, right? Never on my radar that he was Filipinese. Right.
But Filipino, I think.
And we got along pretty good for a while there. We had a falling out in high school because he grew up to be a bit of a douche. But in primary school, we were good mates. Sleep over to his place. Got along great. I really loved his culture as well. His mum made great freaking food, man. I like that. That's why my experience growing up in Australia. That's why it was always bizarre to me when Americans say Australia is particularly racist, because I've never experienced actual racism growing up. Never processing it internally, never seeing it from other people and other people. Australia was a very diverse place, right? Asians, Filipino, Indonesians,
Chinese.
Well, yeah, I said Asians.
Sudanese. They're not all the same, Shad.
But also Pacific Islanders, so Maori, Samoans,
Kiwis,
everything.
don't even get me started, man.
right?
Kiwi.
Like they were all, less so in my early like primary school, but kindergarten. But in primary school and high school, not even on the radar, right? Because Australia isn't actually racist. We're a very diverse country in that sense, but Australians are very, very willing to poke fun at stuff.
Because it's still, why not?
Well-
if you act all very, oh no, we can't discuss this thing about people. You're a pussy.
Do you know how many friggin' Irish jokes there were growing up?
The entire Irish race, yeah.
Like one of the go-to kind of stereotypical groups of people that would be made fun of were the Irish. And I have strong Irish descent, right? And there's the whole jokes about how do you confuse an Irishman? Take him to a round room and tell him to sit in the corner. How do you confuse an Irishman? Get a line of shovels and tell him to take his pick. Right?
What do you call an Irishman with no arms and no legs bouncing off the walls? Ricochet.
See,
Anyway.
but like those were the jokes growing up, and I have Irish heritage, and I'd be saying it, right? Because there was no actual maliciousness in it. They were jokes.
I saw one serious one when I was a kid in school. It was a teacher who said it to a Chinese kid. And we all knew it was messed up. Even a bunch of third graders knew it was messed up. We all looked at each other like, what the hell did she just say? We all felt bad for the poor Chinese kid who everyone loved. And the teacher looked exactly like Pauline Hanson with black hair. Exactly like her. Spoke like her too. It was terrifying. So that's why I'm changing my vote to One Nation. Kidding. But no, we all loved that kid. He was
because there is the side that I think, and we don't say that anymore. We're trying to be a bit more mature. But I tell you what, if you think the Irish jokes were prevalent, Aboriginal jokes were very prevalent as well. Now, to me, what's worse, Aboriginal jokes or Irish jokes? They're still making fun of people for their heritage and race. We don't say it anymore.
I think it's more offensive to choose not to.
The thing is, well, I've heard Aboriginal people say those Aboriginal jokes as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you exclude people just because of their race from an entire thing of humour, that is more race. You're saying they're fragile. You're saying they're not worthy of being included in this thing. That's awful.
So I've never experienced actual mistreatment of other people according to their race in Australia growing up, but heaps of jokes, and that's where the whole perception is Australia more racist or less racist. All right, so going back to the topic at hand, okay, Alone. I love this TV series. It's a survival TV series where people are thrown into a wilderness and they have to film themselves, and they literally are alone, and it's basically who can last the longest, and they can either tap out or be pulled out for medical reasons, mostly due to starvation, or they injured themselves somehow.
I got COVID. What a pussy.
Yeah, he pulled himself out. So this is Matt Walsh reacting to it. So Walsh wrote that he and his wife enjoy watching the US version of Alone, which features gritty, skilled survivalists. It's a great show. We just found out there's an Australian version and started watching unintentionally the funniest thing on TV. Oh man, I've seen it and I haven't watched it yet. Is that
Those
bad,
are two
though?
contradicting things, Shad.
I've seen the show available
Oh, okay.
on my streaming services, but I
confused.
haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
But I've been holding it ready to watch. But is it that embarrassing? Because this thing, unintentional funny thing right now, it's basically Alone DEI edition. And look, it doesn't surprise me. It's made by Channel friggin' 10, right? Because they said 10. Oh no, they. I thought it was Channel 10. It says 10 Australians have dropped off. I saw the 10. I thought it must be Network 10. Network 10 is woke as hell. Oh my gosh. But also History Channel. It wouldn't surprise me if the Australian version focuses on DEI crap and gets contestants. But that's cherry picking, Matt.
Yeah.
Don't let them represent the outback Aussies.
Do you know what the History Channel once claimed in one of their documentaries?
What?
That all Asian people were aliens because of how advanced they were back in the day. I kid you not. That's how the documentary ended. They were here
If I was Asian, I'd take that as a bit of a compliment.
Yeah, but
They are so much smarter than the rest of humanity. They must be another
they're
race.
out of this world. Yeah, well, look at the factory accidents and stuff like that.
No wonder the Japanese thought they were the superior, group of people.
They weren't the only ones who thought that.
Totally honest, but they thought they were the tops.
Pretty much every group except for liberal Westerners think that.
And Australians, because I think we...
Yeah, we put up with this. Yeah.
All right. DEI is an acronym, of course, for diversity, equity, inclusion. Walsh wrote that Alone Australia ticks all the diversity boxes and including 2 lesbians and 2 Indigenous. I think the Indigenous people, that wouldn't throw me. Like, there are a lot of, indigenous communities that still do some hardcore survivalist stuff, right? And so, as an Aussie, that wouldn't throw me too much. If it depends how good they were at it, though, because if they, what reason were they accepted on the show? But the other DEI things, right? They tick all the things. 10 contestants, 2 are lesbians, 2 claim to be indigenous. So maybe that they might not look very indigenous if they're just saying they claim to be. One indigenous guy made a big show of being in touch with nature, etc., and then cried and dropped out after one night. Friggin' hell, man! I'm gonna have to watch it, and I'm gonna be embarrassed too if this is the performance.
I did.
By the way, look, there's been people on the US Alone show that drop out after a night as well. So go, cut us some slack, all right? There's some soft guys that think that so much alone. What annoys me, right? I would have no chance of winning alone. I think I could survive a night.
Yeah, I could survive a night.
I've had to kill a snake with my bare sword.
I've survived.
I was going to say
many
bare
nights
hands.
outside.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. So I'm camping.
I would. My goal, I think I could survive 10 nights on alone. I think I could pull off 10.
I made it a week on Thingo Camp where we had half rations and half water. Yeah. So yeah.
And because the big issue with me is my health issues, chronic fatigue. But I would have enough mobility to make a shelter, try and get some basic kind of food things. Because I've done a decent amount of camping growing up. My dad was hardcore. He'd take us out freaking camping all the time, man. And then I also enjoy just survivalist type stuff. I go to the Shadlands, test out survival skills. It's fun. But I know I'd have no chance in hell of winning. The thing is, though, when I see contestants like that, when I was like, I could do freaking better than that, and they're on the show, I'm tempted. I'm tempted.
I'd get bored too easily. I can survive that long probably. All you need is to kill one roo, you can eat for 5 days.
You do talk to yourself way too much as it is. So.
I do not. Do I? Maybe I do. What do you reckon? Yeah, sure.
The Conservative commentator mocked the Gen Z environmentalist guy who asked for a medical evacuation after testing positive for COVID-19.
Well, there you go. He's a bloody Gen Z environmentalist. The guy's not long for this world anyway. The flu can kill him.
Did he already have COVID?
He's probably a vegan.
Because, if I tested positive for COVID, I wouldn't give a crap because I already had tested. It's like, now I got a sniffle, basically.
Yeah.
Right? I've had COVID a second time since having it, and it was it was uncomfortable, but it was not worse than a flu.
Yeah. I'm going to die of heart disease, yet I eat McDonald's often.
He also targeted a completely white guy who keeps talking about how indigenous he is. I said that, if they're saying they claim to be indigenous, they mustn't really look indigenous. That's
racist, though.
But whose lack of knowledge of fauna resulted in him eating a toxic millipede.
Wait, did he get hospitalized?
This is I don't know. The American version features. But the thing is, though, so many more things are not edible in Australia. All right, you in Alone. You see them eating the fauna and small bugs and things like that. And I don't have the comfort of doing that in Australia because so many friggin' things will be ready to kill you.
Where were they when they did this? Was that
Australia.
Obviously Australia, but what topography?
I don't know. I'm going to have to watch it, and this is going to be painful if it's got such poor contestants like this. Look, usually when a show starts, with the regular series Alone, people lasted much less than the later seasons because the show got popular and attracted more serious survivalists. I'd like to say that's what's happening, but it seems like they did go out of their way to get the more diverse people on board, especially 2 bowing out after a freaking night. It's happened on the regular Alone as well, but even and with them, I'm thinking you were so hardcore about how well you're gonna do.
What do they win?
Look, one guy, give him credit, he got wolves stalking him and he freaked out and was like, all right, in those situations, I get it, okay?
Did he not have fire? No weapons to protect himself?
Yeah, but wolves howling and stalking you, I could see why that would freak you out.
Generally, if you make a big song and dance of it, don't they not come out?
Wolves can be insane.
Yeah, but fire. Men have fire. Fire, big, bright fire.
All right, you have your fire against a pack of wolves.
Men have spear.
There's been historical accounts of communities basically having wars with roaming packs of wolves.
Hell yeah, and they should learn not to screw this.
So, look, this was funny. We wanted to react to it. We're just saying, don't judge it too harshly, even though I judge this harshly as well. This was a setup, all right? Even though he kind of does have a point. It depends where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't judge a pound by its biggest.
Stay on watch.